Hi, this is Tanner Wangjian, and this tutorial will guide you through editing, which is, in my opinion, one of the most tedious, but also one of the most enjoyable steps in creating a video. So, there's obviously many different editing softwares to choose from, but at WBUC we prefer Adobe Premiere and WeVideo simply because they're the most convenient options available to us. And they also have lots of features. If you prefer to use WeVideo, Mr. Bot can send you a registration code if you don't have an account through WeVideo. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to be focusing solely on Adobe Premiere. So, to get you started, you need some raw video and audio to work with. This is typically your responsibility to get the footage and get the audio. But for this tutorial, however, we have it provided for you in Mr. Bach's Y Drive. You go to his Y Drive, which should be mbach, and then Students Shared, then TV Tutorials, then Basic Editing. So you'd go in that folder and then find the footage. But for this tutorial, I'll be using a clip from my show, Tanner Wangjian Presents WBUC. So, to get started, even before you open up Premiere, it's a smart idea to create a folder in the E or D drive depending on your computer. Just make sure that it's not the local C drive. Name your folder your name, so I'd name mine Tanner Wangjian, and within that folder you can create another folder for whatever you're working on. Then within that folder you can save your project file, your video, your audio, etc. Also, make sure that you work on the same computer every day since your project data won't be saved onto your school account, but rather that computer's hard drive. So, next we can open up Premiere. You'd find it by, you'd click on the Windows icon, and then you can search up Premiere, and then you click on Adobe Premiere CS5. So, I'll be using CS6, Adobe Premiere Pro CS6, but it's not very different from CS5, so hopefully you guys are able to catch on to everything. So when the program opens, click on New Project, and then you can name it appropriately. So whatever you want to, whatever the project is you're working on. So for example, if you're working on a video about like the pep rally, you'd call it pep rally. I'll just call this sample. And then you go to Location and Browse. So you'd go to the E or D drive and then go to your folder that's named, so I'd go into Tanner Wangjian. Then I forgot to do this, but make sure you name a folder. So I'll just call this tutorial. You'd make a folder called like pep rally, say if you were doing one on the pep rally. So and then I'd save the project file in this folder, and then hit OK. So new sequence. Make sure that you do this correctly because if you mess it up, it can mess up your entire project. So the way I prefer doing this is going to AVC HD, then 1080p right here, and then AVC HD 1080p 30. You should have an option similar to this, either 1080p 29.97 or 25, whatever. You can do that. Also, there's HDV, and then go to 1080p 30. That's another way of doing it. Like I said, I prefer doing it this way. Both of those ways are decent ways of doing it. So, here's Premiere. Your tools are up here. Here's where you import your footage. You have your effects down here. You have your timeline right here. This is how you drag throughout your timeline. And here's your little preview window right here where you can see what's going on. So, in order to import footage, what we're going to do is double click here. And then I can go to my my drive, and then I'll type in Tanner Wangjian Presents, because that's the folder it's in. This one right here. And then I'm sure that, by the way, when you're importing footage, make sure that you don't import it directly from your SD card. Make sure that you save it into your folder first. So I should probably just go with that, or go through that with you guys. So footage. Oh, am I in season 2? Yeah. Okay, footage. Or no, I'd go into edited segments, and then :dom. So yeah, for this, make sure that you save your footage from your SD card or wherever you're getting your footage from. Even if you're getting it from your downloads, if you're getting it off the internet, make sure that you save it in the folder that you're working from. So I'll import that now, and there it is. So if you want to get it in your project, what you do is you click on it, and then you click on it. Then you click on it, and then this is a pain in the butt. You click on it, then you drag it in. Keep existing settings. So here's the video. The audio should be, I don't know where it is. But anyway, yeah, here's the video. So the only tools you're really going to need up here are the selection tool and the razor tool. Obviously, use the selection tool to select on things, and then the razor tool to cut things. So say I wanted to cut like a certain part out of my video. So I'd cut this, and then so I'd place the razor tool where I want to cut it, and then say I want to cut all the way up to there. So then I'd hit the razor tool again right there by left clicking, and then you'd select that tool you'd select that piece that you want, that chunk that you want to cut out with the selection tool, and then just click delete on your keyboard. So then you can bring that back together, and then yeah, so I cut that part out. Now we'll go on to color correcting. Actually, before I do that, just some quick things. If you want to zoom in or zoom out your video, you can do that by going to the effects panel, then scale. You can zoom in or zoom out your video, make it bigger, smaller, like that. And then position can be used to move it left and right, like so, or up and down. And this right here is keyframing. This is a bit more advanced, but you can actually use this to do animated positioning. So, you can make it like fly in and stuff like that, but that's not really something that's for basic editing. So color correction now. You go to video effects, color correction, and the two presets I like to use are, I like to use RGB curves. So you drag that onto it like that. And then brightness and contrast. That helps out a lot. So, as you can see, now that we're on our effects panel, they're right here. Brightness and contrast are kind of explanatory. Make sure that it's not too bright, or let's move this out a bit. See, like now it's really bright. But you can work around with that. If your video's too dark or whatever, just make sure that it's not too, bad looking. Then there's contrast, and that's really not something you would have to really adjust. There we go. And then curves. Just to add a little bit of like an artistic feel, you might want to add some red to it, just to add like a little bit of a tint to it. But say if your video is not white balanced correctly, or if it looks too blue or whatever, you can use these curves to help you out. So say the video should be more red, you can make it more red, like using the red curve. And then say your video is not green enough, make it more green. That's obviously, a bit of an extreme example, but that's just showing you how to adjust that kind of stuff. One last thing I wanted to show you guys is transitions. So if you go to transitions and then dissolve, this is how you add fades. So if you want to start out your video black and then have it fade in from black, you'd add additive dissolve, and then drag that right onto the beginning. So now it looks like this. See? And then if you want to fade to black at the end, you'd hit dip to black. Then I could drag that on the end. Then it fades out to black. And then one more thing, there's also cross dissolve. So you can add that, say if you want, instead of just having like a jump cut from one clip to the next, you can have it fade kind of like, in a smooth way. So as you can see here, this is a bit of a abrupt transition. I can crossfade it. So I take the crossfade. Let me just get in a little closer there. I take the crossfade, or the cross dissolve as it's called on here, and I drag that in the middle, in between the two clips. So now it looks like this. See, so it's a bit more of a seamless transition. This is probably not the best example, but it gets the point across. So, hopefully you guys learned something from this basic video editing. If you have any questions, email me at tannerwengjian@gmail.com, and I cover audio in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching, and enjoy.